Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be talking about some issues with the demand at the Pokemon World Championships for several events, for items in the Pokemon Center potentially. Lots to talk about there. We'll talk about a few new cards that were revealed, including one that old school players will be very excited to see coming out very soon in Obsidian Flames. We'll, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And those of you who comment on the YouTube channel and say that you skip Guess That Flavor Text, just so you know, I see that and it hurts my feelings. And then we'll wrap up the episode with the best of three versus best of one debate that has arisen once again. And one of the main people who's been at kind of the center of this discussion because of his pace of play on stream put out a statement regarding the situation toward Reklev himself. We'll discuss all of that, our thoughts, our opinions, and more on this week's episode. And we'll wrap up things over on our Patreon with a bonus exclusive episode, which you can find over there, patreon.com/Uncommon Energy Podcast. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy?
Doing good. Just another week of streaming, YouTube, all that fun stuff. Didn't really do anything too too crazy this weekend or this week. I'm trying to think if I did like anything between this week and last week. I don't really think so, but I'm liking the non-travel, to be honest. The no travel has been good so far.
I saw you did some like content. I haven't watched it yet, but you reacted to or like did your VOD reviews, but for local league cups and stuff. Because there's been a lot of league cups happening. So I thought that was kind of cool. Something that you did that you don't normally
Yeah,
do.
I've done that a couple times. Well, I've been trying to do it. I like forget to do it sometimes. But yeah, on weekends, instead of going to League Cups or challenges myself, I'll try and find like people who are streaming League Cups or League challenges, and then just kind of tune in and commentate over the gameplay. It's like definitely nice. I'm sure I would get bored of it if I did it too much, but because I don't really do it very often, like commentating over line gameplay or like analyzing live gameplay, I should say, because I'm not like trying to commentate it per se, but just analyzing gameplay while it's live is a lot more exciting because you don't know what's gonna happen really. But like when I do like the regional or IC VOD reviews, it's like a little bit less hype because you kind of just know what's going to happen to
Right.
an extent because of the results of the tournament. Not every round, but a decent amount of the round. So not knowing what's going to happen is nice. I've been doing that. Also, I guess I did do also that one more thing I mentioned. I put out a video um, where I actually talked with Stefan Eriksson, who's pretty knowledgeable. He's he's been a player for a long time, judge this season, and then is also pretty knowledgeable on numbers and math and stuff. Actually, does some teaching around statistics. And I did a little bit of like an interview style video where I talked about like randomness and like shuffling in the Pokemon TCG because there's like a topic that I talked about a lot a little while ago on my own stream, YouTube. Went back and forth with some people on Twitter, and Stefan reached out to me and was like, "Yo, do you want to talk about this stuff so that way, just give me a better understanding of what I'm trying to convey to people?" And then I was like, "Yo, can we turn it into some kind of like video type thing so you can share that information with everyone?" And that's what we ended up doing. That's on my YouTube channel right now. So anyone who wants to know a little bit more as to why you shouldn't pile shuffle, or why pile shuffling isn't a form of randomization, so go check out that video over on my YouTube channel, Azul GG. But yeah, that's my week. What about you, Chip? How was your week?
Week was pretty good. Nothing too crazy. Spent some time with some family this weekend, which was fun. Got Samuel the baby and my brother and sister-in-law's baby together and hung out with the grandparents and stuff, which was fun. And then I actually picked up, or not picked up, but I started playing through Stray on my PS5 this week because it's free with PS Plus Extra, I think, for this month, but it like goes away tomorrow. And I have not finished it yet, so I need to finish it before it gets taken off of PS Plus Extra tomorrow. But I'm a few hours in. It's a pretty short game. I think I'm almost done with it. I'm gonna, after we're done recording, run downstairs and try to finish it tonight before I go to bed. Um, but that game is like super cool. It's super unique. I'm not a huge cat person. For anyone who doesn't know, it is like the cat game is kind of like how people know it. You play as a cat, a stray cat. Um, and I don't want to spoil anything for it because I didn't know much about it besides the fact that you play as a cat. I didn't know much else. But it's a super cool game, a super unique story. It reminds me a lot of Portal, if you played Portal way back in the day, just like things are not as they seem type of thing, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. And yeah, looking forward to trying to finish that up. And this coming weekend, I'm actually going to play in a League Cup, first tournament of the 2023 season. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna try to do with this year. I'm gonna try to. I mean, obviously, like I'll cast all the regionals they ask me to cast, and I'll try to go to the ones that they don't ask me to cast, where I'll try to like go and play in several of them. Um, so I mean, I guess maybe I can try to actually get a Worlds invite this year. I don't know, like with a full season of cups and challenges, which hopefully we should have, right? I feel like it's like a reasonable thing for me to do, but it will involve me like actually having to go to all the cups and challenges because I will play far less regionals than most other people. Ideally, you know, assuming I get to cast a pretty decent amount of them. So yeah, maybe we'll kick off Chip's journey to getting a 2024 Worlds invite this coming weekend. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely seems like it'll probably be pretty reasonable, like pretty reasonable to do with like mostly locals. It'll probably be pretty similar to like pre-COVID um structure. So you get pretty close. You'll probably have to pick up some regional points or maybe even some IC
Right.
points, but you should be able to get there. I believe in you, Chip.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. The camaraderie is what it's all about at the end of the day. But let's get into our first topic of the podcast this week, starting with some issues with demand at the Pokemon World Championships. And not really, I mean, we talked about the issue kind of with spectator passes a couple weeks ago, where, you know, spectator passes sold out pretty much instantly. Or no, it was like a lottery system,
Lottery
right?
system,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was a lottery system.
Well, I guess you should say
Um,
it's not really an issue. Everything's going as planned,
well,
right?
sure. The demand is
Uh,
just really high.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess people are kind of a little uh I'm sure some people are a little bit frustrated or a little bit just like what is the word I'm looking for? It's not sad. I don't think anyone's like sad, but disappointed. There we go.
Disappointed. Yeah.
There we go. That's the word.
You couldn't think of the word disappointed.
Yeah, I was struggling because I started with frustrated. In my head, I started with frustrated. I was like, not looking for the word frustrated. Um,
So
but yeah,
outside of like the Pokemon World Championships event itself, which already was having, you know, capacity issues with spectator badges, like there being way more demands than there were badges available. Outside of just the main World Championships itself, there's a bunch of Pokemon Worlds related things happening. There's an event at a park, there's a live music show, there's a parade, all kinds of things happening, and people could sign up online
the
for
lottery.
lottery spots to attempt to get into all these various different things. And this includes things like the World Store, similar to what they did at NAIC, where you could sign up to try to get a spot for the Pokemon Center. But then some of these other ones just seem kind of unique and cool. Some kind of festival going on at the park. Um, a live music show as well. And yeah, if you're like me and Azul, if you're going to Worlds, like plenty of people signed up and tried to get spots to these things. And if you're also like me and Azul, you did not get accepted spots for any of the cool stuff. I did get a Pokemon Center spot, which I'm thankful for and glad to be able to have. But I'm a little bummed because I think like, you know, this is the unique stuff, right? The parade, the shows, the park. Those things would have been really cool to have a chance to go and do and see, but they've all filled up.
Yeah, those are actually like when I looked at like the stuff, and actually I didn't know what I actually signed up for a spot for the World Store as well, which I wouldn't have done if I had known competitors just by default got one, which I just didn't know when I signed up. But all the other stuff like seemed like cool to potentially just just go and do. You know, I mean, this is gonna be my first time in Japan. So there's a lot of other stuff just like Japan-based stuff to do besides Pokemon stuff. But like, I don't
Sure.
know, I'm there for 2 weeks, so like doing the Pokemon stuff would have been cool to do as well. You know, it's not that much going on. And yeah, what the other stuff is like the stuff that I was because like if you go to the Pokemon Center, there's not going to be anything to get anyways because everything's going to be sold out. So like, at least with this stuff, like it'll be there. So yeah, I kind of want to. I was hoping to get into like one or two of the things, to have something to already kind of plan to do around the Pokemon stuff. Because yeah, I mean the Pokemon store for me, like I'm never someone who like cares too much about like if it's like a cool world's exclusive thing. Like I think the dice were pretty cool last year, so like I got a thing of the dice. But yeah, I'm never like looking to buy a bunch of the Pokemon exclusive, the world's exclusive merch. Anyways, I always get my competitors kit as well, so I always get some of this stuff.
Yeah. It's kinda nice
Anyways,
to be a competitor because you just, like you get a lot of the stuff that, as a player, you would probably want to get at the store, right? Like,
yeah,
some of the things that players would get would be, like, sleeves, deck boxes, playmat, and you get that exclusive stuff already, and you in even other stuff outside of playing the game, like, you get a backpack, you get a T-shirt, you get a hat, like, so you
yeah.
get most of, like, the cool stuff, so even if you don't end up getting much at the Pokemon Center, you still have that to walk away with.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so I wasn't too bummed about the Pokemon Center one. I'm not really too bummed about all of them, anyways. I'm sure there's people out there like for me, like with the Pokemon stuff. There's people out there who are like much bigger fans of like Pokemon than I am. So, it would have been cool to go to some of this stuff, but not a big deal for me overall, to be honest.
Yeah, and
Um,
so many people I saw posting like screenshots on Twitter when the emails were going out last week of the spots that they got. And most of the people I saw, it was like 0 for 5, just getting absolutely nothing, signing up for any
saw a
of these
couple ones
things
and
and then just not
twos.
even getting access to it. Here and there, I'd see someone who got a store spot, but I don't know that I saw anyone who actually ended up getting a spot to one of the shows or the parade.
I saw one or two, I think, out there. I mean, it's got. I mean, as long as the lottery isn't capped, like if we just think about Japan and the amount of players who are or who play Pokemon over there and who are fans of the game, like
Mhm.
they have 3,000 player tournaments with 10,000 players registering for the lottery, right?
Yep.
So the 3,000 players that make it into these 3,000 player tournaments in Japan, there's actually like 10,000 of them trying to get into those tournaments. And then beyond that, there's just a lot of Pokemon fans, right? Like there's so many more players
Yep.
because we only
It's
see
a
like
bigger
the
part of their culture than it is
yeah, we
here.
only see the TCG side of things, which is 3,000 player tournaments in Japan. Do they? I wonder how big the video game is over there. Now that I kind of like, and I've never thought about that before because I just never see the numbers. Um, yeah, I'm curious about that.
How big is the
But
video game? Like,
yeah, like how big are their?
players wise, you
Yeah,
mean?
like if they're having 3,000 player TCG tournaments, how big are their VGC
Well,
tournaments?
I
Like I'm sure they're
think
not
that
as big,
they
but
do a decent amount of stuff online, I'm pretty sure.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just never thought. I literally have just never thought about that before. But now it's just like all of a sudden, like, oh wait, that is like a thing. I wonder how big their tournaments are over there. Um, but yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, it's just gonna be huge, right? It's gonna be a
Yeah.
madhouse. Like,
It
I'm
it
personally like
it
I've
is
said
gonna be a
this.
madhouse for
I've already said
sure.
this multiple times, but I'm probably gonna have like personally a pretty miserable experience at the World Championships. I'm not a big fan of big crowds, tons of people. Like, so me personally, I'm not looking forward towards World Championships too much, but I am looking forward to going to Japan. So, but
And
yeah,
speaking of the
everything around the
World
World Championships.
Store, they
Go ahead.
have put out a list of everything that is available to be purchased at the World Store, which is pretty cool. I actually don't know that they've done this in years past, like ahead of time, saying these are all the various things. So theoretically, you can kind of go through and see what some of the unique things are. Like, for example, maybe some like Japanese exclusive things. There's like a ramen bowl, some chopsticks, like that's the type of stuff that we wouldn't normally get at the Pokemon Center, right? So those type of things I think are pretty cool. Those are the type of merchandise things I'm drawn to at least. Um, they've got a World's 2023 skateboard deck, the Bear Walker thing. I actually think I saw a Bear Walker's Twitter. He tweeted a picture of it this week. Um, is cool. I mean, that's become a huge collectible item. The skateboards,
Yeah.
yeah, he did tweet a picture of it, which I mean, and it's because like I don't skateboard, and I would bet that 95% of the people who buy these things do not skateboard,
No.
but these
Well, no
things
one's
just
opening them.
look sick, right? They
Yeah.
just look so cool.
They do look really dope.
But they released a list of tons and tons and tons of things. But one thing that stood out to people was that they announced that due to unforeseen circumstances, two items that would have been sold at the Pokemon Center store at Worlds have been canceled. And those two items were the TCG deck box and the TCG double deck box,
Yeah. And actually,
which
like
is pretty
the
disappointing to see for a lot of the TCG players out there.
yeah, especially because I feel like the TCG double deck boxes from Worlds have kind of become like an iconic piece of like merchandise or exclusive merchandise from Worlds. To be honest, I think the first time they did them was in Vancouver Regionals, if I remember
I think
correctly, which
so,
is
yeah.
which is the first Worlds I went to, and they've done them ever since. But it's like one of the biggest. It's the one of the most used items from Worlds because people actually use the double deck boxes from Worlds. So it's definitely one of the biggest items for sure. That's not maybe the biggest item for TCG players that's not going to be present at the store, to be honest. We don't know if
It's
competitors still get one in their. It just says not available for purchase at the store.
it's
Do
true.
they have competitor? Are the competitor ones usually different or no? I actually don't even remember.
They have been in the past, but they've also
Sometimes.
there was a long time where I don't know because it's before my time, but I think that and maybe you I don't know if you remember or not, but like at those early worlds, I don't know that you could get them in the store. I kind of feel like
Ooh, actually, you might be right on that.
I
Yeah,
kind of think they used to be competitor
competitor
exclusive.
exclusives. Yeah, they
And
maybe were.
then like 2016 maybe there was two different ones. The competitor one had a Pikachu on it and the store one had the Snorlax on it, and I think like for a couple years they did two different ones, but I'm pretty sure the last couple of worlds like 2019 and 2023 or 2022, excuse me, they were the same between the store and um, and the competitor kits. But there definitely were a couple years where there was two different ones available. But
Yeah, I'm not
yeah, I mean, for
sure.
me personally, like that's the one thing like I use consistently from Worlds every single year, even after Worlds is over. Like I have the 2017, 18, and 19 deck boxes, and those are the three deck boxes that I all like. Those are the first three deck boxes I grab whenever I'm like putting a deck in my backpack for a tournament. Those are the first three ones I use.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of sucks. I think a lot of people are disappointed about that. Because I was actually just curious, so I looked it up. There's how many players were in the play VGC over in Japan. I don't really know, but at their Japan Championships this year, which was not that long ago, was in June 10th. They only had 150 VGC players, but I think it was some kind. It was like invite only basis for their Japan Championships because that's what it was for TCG for the most part. So I don't know. I was just curious about that, so I thought I would mention it out there because I looked it up. But yeah, no double deck boxes. Kind of sucks. Most of the other stuff will be there though. And then the competitors still might, but that's going to make those really expensive if the competitors do end up getting them. Because that'll
Yeah.
be like, because it's like definitely one of the biggest items for sure at Worlds. Every single time, even at like NAIC, they had like an NAIC exclusive one as well, which like sold out instantly. Basically every single day if they had extra stock, like did not last very long. So yeah, if the competitors still get one, it's definitely going to be a pretty expensive deck box.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna try to buy one. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that if that's the case. I would almost rather them, in this instance, not be available
Just hope the
than pay
competitors don't get it.
$100 for a
Damn,
deck
Chip.
box, but
You heard it here first. Anyone who's a competitor going to World, Chip hopes you don't get a deck box.
Stop, stop.
He's like the Grinch, bro. He's like,
If no one can have one or if I can't have
can't
one,
have
no
one.
one.
No one can have one.
No, it's definitely a bummer, but, it is worth, if you're going to Worlds and you're, someone who's gonna want to pick up a few things at the Pokemon Center. I mean, I know I've
Dude,
seen
there's so many
so many
things.
people at Worlds every year dropping like 4, even 5 figures at the Pokemon Center to like pick up all the exclusive stuff. So I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are going to want to be buying some things. So it's definitely worth going through and kind of picking out, okay, here are the exclusive things that I want to make sure I go after. So when you get into the store, you can kind of know what to prioritize because stuff theoretically is going to go pretty quick, right?
Yeah, I mean, not all of it. There's like definitely like
Mm.
the like non-exclusive stuff is gonna not gonna go as quickly, or just there's just some stuff that even if it is exclusive, it just doesn't move. You know, like the deck boxes move, the mats move,
A
stuff like
lot of this
that.
is gonna be exclusive stuff, though, is the thing. But yes,
Yeah,
there's
but like,
definitely stuff that's gonna
yeah.
move
What
slower
is
than other
what is
things.
a two-toed sock? What is two-toed socks?
I actually saw a picture of something with this
Oh, is it one
on
where it's just like, isn't it just like
Twitter.
two-toed socks are the ones where there's a it's only separating your big toe from the rest of your toes, right?
I think it's your big and your second toe, but I don't know
That
for
sounds
sure.
uncomfortable. If it's just the big toe, that sounds
No,
fine.
here, I think it is just the big toe. I saw this picture on
Okay.
Twitter of some two-toe socks. I imagine that's what it is.
Yeah. Why? What
For
advantage does this
sandals.
give? Oh, okay. True, true, true. So you
Yeah,
can wear
yeah.
them. I was like, yeah, what is the purpose of this? It's like people picking up stuff with their feet, bro. Like that people are rolling dice. Yeah,
But,
there's gonna be
yeah.
there's a lot of things. Because when I looked at the list for the first time before we started the cast, I was like, dude, there's just like a lot of. There probably is like this much stuff usually, but like I've never seen it in list form like this. There's like a
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you think about how much space some of this stuff takes up, right? Like this whole section of things, the key holders and the socks and the figures, like these things can all fit onto one display
Yeah,
cabinet,
yeah.
right? So it won't take up
Pikachu
that
and
much
Lapras
space.
denim jacket. Do people wear denim?
But
I feel
stuff
like
like
that.
this,
Yeah,
dude, if the competitor backpack looks like this,
pretty sick.
or if it's a
It'll
little
be
different,
different. The
usually the
backpacks are always
competitor backpack
different.
is different from the store one.
I think every
And
time it's always. I think it's always. That's one thing that's always different. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
And the mat, of course, but
So, I mean, this is the store one. So the competitor one hopefully looks like cooler than this, right?
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, that
I
one
mean, I
looks
guess
pretty
that is
good.
an objective thing.
No, there's such a thing as cooler. I mean, some people are just wrong. That's the shirt looks pretty nice too. I'm usually not like a big fan of like
The jersey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is it a jersey?
I think so.
Oh, that's right. They have been doing the jerseys recently. All right, I'm still not a fan of
It
it.
actually
Anyways,
might be a shirt, but the
it is a
V
shirt.
neck
Yeah, it is a
cut.
jersey. It probably is a jersey, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that's what makes
All
me
right, I'm
think
no
that.
longer a fan of it. Never mind.
Well, we'll keep
Yeah,
our eyes on it, and yeah, maybe the competitors will get something that no one else is able to get.
hopefully. All right. Up next, we got some new cards revealed. Now, these ones are coming out in Ruler of the Black Flame over in Japan. I think it's either this weekend or next weekend. It's coming out soon. I think it is this weekend though. I think it comes out like the weekend of the 22nd, the 21st, whatever. Um, and most, but maybe not all of these cards we will be getting in Obsidian Flames on August 11th. But yeah, there's some new cards for us to take a look at here.
Yep, and a few, there's some unique cards I think coming out in this one, but also some things that are very similar to old cards. So there's be things to look forward to, and then also things like you can reminisce on a little bit. What's the first thing you want to talk about here? I guess Glamora.
Yeah, and just go down to the Gomorrah first.
Yeah, Glamora EX. Kind of cool that this is like getting revealed, and they've been doing this a little bit more recently. Usually, cards get revealed for the first time in Japanese, and then we have to like see them on Twitter. People translate them, and then we can get the translations that way. But recently, there's been a few cards. The Rev of Room EX was like this, and then Glamora EX like this as well,
Well, I think
being
it's
revealed in English first, which is kind of neat.
well, I think it's because of how close the releases are to each other.
Yeah,
Because like
exactly.
Obsidian Flames comes out what 3 weeks after Ruler of the Black Flame does, and that's like the closest we've ever had releases of like the same cards from Japan. Maybe that might be the soonest we've gotten cards released as they've gotten cards released. Not 100% sure on that, but um, hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But of course, like we get 151, like they already have 151 in Japan, and we don't get it until September, so that feels off. But the release of Obsidian Flames being pretty soon after Ruler of the Black Flame, like that's a good sign. But then the 151 is kind of feels weird. But like the 151 set is like our holiday set or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like they're just gonna make another set out of thin air to like fill that kind of gap with. And I guess we should be getting one more set in like November. The next main set should be around November. I feel like as well.
Right.
So we should have there's still 3 more sets towards the end of this year, which feels like a lot, but I guess it is kind of like on pace for what it normally is.
So the Glamora EX is actually kind of interesting here. 270 HP, stage 1 fighting type Pokemon with the Dust Field ability. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't have more than 3 benched Pokemon. If they have 4 more benched Pokemon, they discard until they have 3 on the bench, and then so on and so forth. Some other just like reminder text. And then its attack for 2 fighting energy, Poisonous Gem, 140 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. So a pretty solid disruptive ability. Efficient attack, but pretty low damage output.
Yeah.
What's your take on Glamora, Azul?
I mean, I think yeah, the ability is definitely good. Parallel City was good. Collapse Stadium is even sometimes like pretty oppressive to someone's bench. So I think if we see it being played, you'll play like a 1/1 or a 2/2 in a deck, and you just kind of push it up after you get KO'd or when you can conveniently do it, and then you just like switch it back to the bench. Like so you like make your opponent discard their bench, switch back to the bench, and then just take advantage of the disruption of the ability. Maybe even play escape rope. So like they discard some Pokemon off their bench, you escape rope, force up one of the ones they kept, and then take that knockout with something else. I don't know what you play it with, but like I think that's probably the most effective use we'll see out of it. Just kind of like a bench limiting Pokemon to kind of disrupt your opponent. Because yeah, the attack just isn't great, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is efficient, 2 energy to attack, right? But like there's not great fighting energy acceleration. I mean, gutsy pickaxe or Raihan specifically is kind of your best option. I don't know. I don't think that this is ever going to be played as like a 1-1 or a 2-2 line for the purpose of just like sending up after a KO. Like that's just like so
Well,
much
if we
deck
get
space
to
and a bench space to commit to something like that, right?
like more setup based decks, I could see it. Like when we get to eventually, which it seems like we're heading to, is like the eventual. Most decks are going to be stage 2 EX decks.
Mm,
You're going to have trying to get down like your whole squad plus some support Pokemon, plus like an initial setup support Pokemon. But if that ends up in the active, then all of a sudden you could be discarding like their Bidoof and their Greninja, even though you're not getting rid of one of their Ralts or whatever it might be. Whatever Meowscarada, the spaghetti
yeah.
cat, whatever. Like if you had 3 spaghetti cats and a Bidoof and a Greninja on your bench, and then you send up Gamora, they have to discard two, like get discarding two Pokemon there. That kind of hurts, right? Like Avery is really good against Gardevoir, right? Like a lot of people play Avery and like Arceus decks for like the Gardevoir
Yeah.
matchup. Like they go, Greninja quad Ralts, and you're like, okay, Avery, and then you go Escape Rope, and then it's like, okay, now their setup is kind of destroyed.
I could see there being a format where this is like okay enough as an attacker, but it would have to be like the way I see this being played would be with like heavy disruption. So like
Yeah,
crushing hammers, or if there's some other forms of control type cards that come out. So it's like just an
just
annoying
be
deck.
super annoying. Yeah,
Yeah, that poisons you as well. I mean, we've got things like Radiant Hisuian Sneasler to boost your
yeah,
poison damage. You can fix some numbers. And I mean, listen, it's a fighting type. Traditionally, in the Pokemon TCG, fighting is one of the worst weaknesses to have. So if there's Arceus decks running around still, Miraidon, if it ever creeps its head back in there, I mean, this is something that's going to knock out pretty much everything in those decks.
yeah.
Or if there's some better fighting Pokemon that could supplement this for certain matchups. I think there's a chance for Glimora at some point in the future. We'll have to see though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Moving on, we got the. I mean, you ready to go all the way down? Would you want
You
to?
want to talk about Togekiss or
No, we can talk about Reverum though.
we
I
talked
already
about it
made.
already.
Oh, did we already talk about Reverum?
Yeah, we talked about
Oh,
Reverum.
all right, we're talking way too much about Reverum. All right, let's move on to the big one then. The Pidgeot.
Bro, Azul loves Reverum for
I'm a
some
big
reason. I
fan,
just
big
don't know
Reverum.
why, dude.
4 tool cards is just cool. You can do a like
Bro,
the
I
build
just
that
don't see you
I.
giving the same love to Honchkrow V and, I
That's true.
mean,
I'm sorry,
listen,
Honchkrow.
I don't know
You
what it
can't
is, Azul. I don't know.
you can't Cheryl a Honchkrow though, but Reverum, you can put Spirit Masks and the rugged helmet on it, and then they
Yeah.
hit you, and then you heal with
And then
Cheryl.
you Cheryl, and then you have to wait 3 turns to attack again. Okay.
Wait, no, we're just not attacking with it. We're just letting them
Oh,
hit
okay.
us.
It's just
Or
tanking.
Reverum
No, you can
control.
play it with the Bronzong, right? That thing is still in the format. Move your metal energy around.
If it is, yeah. I don't know if it is though.
I think it is. It's from Battle Styles. So
All right, lock it in. See, Chip, you're on it now. You're on the the
I'm on the
Reverum hype train.
Revavroom. I'm riding the Revavroom car, dude. Can we also just talk about like they made an engine Pokemon, man?
I
It's an
mean, they gotta go
engine
somewhere. Yeah, gotta go somewhere.
with
Is it
a
supposed to be like a?
tongue.
Is
It
it supposed
has
to
a
be like a?
tongue.
It's supposed to be like a haunted engine because that's usually what those things kind of
It's
are.
yeah, I thought that too when because
Combined with it.
I played the game unlike Azul. So when I came across this thing for the first time, I was like, oh, it's just like a ghost car. It's a ghost metal type. Nope, you
Yeah.
catch one for the first time, it's a poison type.
Well, isn't also like Maridon and Koridon? Aren't they like motorcycles?
Kinda.
Yeah. We're
Sure.
going to. Are we entering like the automobile age of Pokemon?
Maybe
Or
so.
truck Pokemon. We're gonna have the first electric car Pokemon eventually.
I mean, that's what Maridon is, an electric
True,
motorcycle,
true.
dude. So we're there. The
We're
future is
there.
now.
All right, but Pidgeot EX. Yeah, there's
The
definitely
past is now with
the
Pidgeot
passes
EX.
now. This is definitely like a lot of people just like the nostalgias are coming through with this card a lot for a lot of people. Not me. I'm a little bit more level headed. The card's not very good right now, but it probably will be eventually. 280 HP. The ability quick search. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So any one card. That's not bad. That's a pretty good ability. But the attack sucks, right? Colorless, 120. You may discard a stadium in play. So to commit to getting a stage 2, another stage 2 possibly, because it'll probably be in a stage 2 deck that already plays Rare Candy. Then search for any one card out of your deck. It doesn't seem like it really works in the current meta. But yeah, a lot of people the nostalgia is hitting hard for a lot of people with this card because this used to be a very good card back in 2006.
Yeah, 2004, 5, and 6. This
5 and
card
6.
was, or not 2004. I think it came out at like the end of 2004. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was like fall of 2004 after Worlds. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, this card was it's just iconic. You know, it dominated the game. It was played in a ton of different decks. It was one of the best support cards in the history of the game. The same Poke Power. Search a deck for one card, put it in your hand, but you can only use one quick search each and every turn. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion about this. Obviously, people are kind of having, I think, like the rose tinted glasses. I think
Definitely.
um, like the ability is good. It is super
Yeah.
good,
The rest of the card.
but it's on a stage two. It's on a stage
Yeah.
two. The only place it makes sense to play a card like this currently is in a deck that is already playing Rare Candy. You're not going to go out of your way to play Rare Candy, and you're not going to take the time to evolve it 3 times or 2 times, I guess. Pidgeotto, Pidgeot. Um, So you're gonna have to play it in a deck that plays Rare Candy. And the only thing really right now that fits in is Baxcalibur, I think. And I could see this being okay in Baxcalibur.
Yeah, it might replace B Barrel, to be honest. Like maybe
And
because like
Arceus, right?
yeah.
Like that's the combo based version of the deck is what's become popular. And quick search is half a Starbirth you can use every single turn, right?
Yeah. But I think as we do, but the thing is, so the the other way you can look at this card is like probably as we move to a more EX based format, there's definitely space for this card to flourish, right?
Sure.
But we're still 2 rotations away from getting rid of lost zone, right? So I don't know when that's gonna happen. Hopefully with the next rotation, stage 2 EX type decks do have their moment. But yeah, the Pidgey got 60 HP. Sableye and Greninja ready to go. Like, yeah, so like if we
Cresselia.
depending on how long it takes for us to get there to a more stage 2 EX based format where we are, almost every deck is playing Rare Candy to begin with, so you may as well include a 101 of this because it just kind of fits. We might not. It might be a while before we actually see this thing being good. And actually, is it maybe all right? 2 rotations from now, does this thing get rotated as well? Like, not quite,
No, because
right?
we're on E right now, right? So we're on E block on. So we'll rotate E, we'll rotate F, and then this is a G
Okay.
regulation
So
mark.
that we might be waiting 2 rotations. Like once we get rid of Lost Zone stuff and Lugia and whatever, before this thing sees play. But I think at that point, that's when could definitely flourish. And maybe we're just like 1 rotation away. But I think we are at least a rotation
Yeah.
away from this
I
thing
could see it
being good.
right now in
In
Baxcalibur
Excalibur, yeah, yeah.
specifically. But like, yeah, I think this is something that in the future will be pretty good. Now, one thing I tweeted about this as well, saying that when old Pidgeot was around, Rare Candy was a bit different than what it is now, right?
True.
So, old Rare Candy, you could play it the turn that you put the Pokemon into play. So, you could bench Pidgey, immediately play Rare Candy into Pidgeot. If that existed right now, stage two decks in general would just be way better, obviously. Turn two Guardy EX would probably be a little oppressive, I think. But
You can also like get stuff in play out of nowhere, right? You go bench. I don't know, Spaghetti Cat, Candy to Meowscarada, on
yeah,
turn 5 or something,
yeah.
and kind of build up towards that in your hand, so you don't have to like have the little vulnerable Spaghetti Cat on the bench just ready to get KO'd.
But
So
somebody in the replies, I think it was Ahmed, yeah, said there's also just less turns in a game. Rare Candy Pidgeot would net you 6 to 8 specific cards back in the day. Now you're getting 2 to 3. I think that's another valid point, right? You're getting less value out of the card because games just are less turns than they used to be more often than not.
the game's really going by that fast. I feel like there's more turns than that in a game.
Well, I think it's by the time you're getting this in play, right? So if you're getting
Yeah, I
this in play
guess.
on
Yeah.
turn two, you're going to get 3 quick searches from it. Game's
Also, I
over in
feel like
five
games back in
five
the day were
turns.
longer than that. They were like you get like 10 or more quick searches off back in the
Oh
day.
yeah, because sometimes you would just like not get a KO on a turn, right? Nowadays you get
It
it.
happened a
Every
lot.
deck takes
Yeah.
a KO every turn, right?
For the most, well, not even really though. To be honest, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of whatever. But yeah, for as
Because
far
the
as the candy
Arceus
rules,
decks will take 2 hit KOs a
yeah.
lot, right? Especially those mirrors get really slugfesty.
I think one thing people
Dude,
have to
could this be good just in Arceus as well? Like, obviously, you don't get to accelerate to it,
maybe.
but like, you get to pull out some neat tech supporters all the time, and you can guaranteed set up Pidgeot with
Is
Starbirth,
it?
right?
But I feel like just playing like the Curly Gallade line is just better than the Buddy
Is
Buddy
it though?
catch.
Because
If
this can
you're
get
only
you
searching out
like an energy
supporters,
card, and it
yeah,
can get you
but
the boss, and Yeah, it can get you the path to the peak, which I guess you don't really want path to the peak with this thing. It can get you Lost City, right? Like,
Maybe setting it up would still be kind of a headache, but I guess if you just committed one of your Starbirth pieces to then get the other card off the quick search, I could make up for it. So
right.
I could see it. I could see it.
Because
Um,
committing one Starbirth piece, like if you already had, like if you have Pidgey on the bench and you have Pidgeot or Ultra Ball in hand, and you just go get rare candy, then you can immediately quick search for whatever the other card was, right? So it's like you're not really
yeah,
even losing that much value. In fact, you're like thinning your deck actively, right?
that's true. Yeah, I could see it. The one thing about the red candy stuff is like one thing people have to keep in mind is that like these cards are being designed. Well, you know what? To be honest, it could be different. Like I think we should like assume that these cards are being designed with the idea that the rare candy rule, the way rare candy currently works, is the way it works around these cards, right? They've
Yeah,
tested
yeah, yeah.
these cards with the way with current rare candy, but who knows? Maybe a rotation or now from or two a rotation or two from now, they actually already plan to change the rare candies, right? Like that's possible that they errata rare candy.
I
They like
think
already
there's no
planned.
shot.
I think the one that I saw that was reasonable was from Jake Gearhart, whereas like what rare candy would do would be you could rare candy immediately when you put a basic in play, but just not on your first turn. Um, so that would be I think that would be interesting. But I think they already know. They already know either they already plan to do that, like the cards are already being designed and the game's designed around that being possible, or it's just being currently designed around the uh current way you use rare candy. Because I'm sure they know they can change rare candy if they want to. So I think we just kind of have to hope that it's still like a fun, enjoyable experience when we get to more rare candy based decks being in the in the format.
Yeah. Yeah, the more we talked about it, I actually think I like the card a little bit more now. Like just with Arceus, I think is probably the better partner for it. But
Fits
other than
in
that, like Baxcalibur is the place to be. But I think like more so, this is like a obviously the ability is very good, but
in a
just
couple
not
years.
yet. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This card will have its time almost definitely though.
All right, let's move on. Got some trainer cards now. First one up is the Lost Box Killer, quote unquote. The attack cost of each basic Pokemon in play both using your opponents is colorless more. So pretty good against Lost Box, to be honest. Actually, the more I thought about, the better I think it is. Lost Box does have kind of answers to this. Like Cramp can still attack for free, which I definitely messed up recently when I was talking about this card in one of my YouTube videos. I like didn't connect that, yeah, Cram attacks for free. So even with this in play, Cram is still attacking. And you
Yeah.
can like Mirage Gate to get like an extra energy on Sableye and stuff, but like that is really annoying to have to do. So I actually think this card is actually going to be really good against Lost Box. They do play a decent amount of stadiums out. Stadium outs are like 2 Pokestop, 3 Vacuum usually. But if you're throwing like Iono at them, Iono down to 4 plus that's plus the Poke League HQ, that's pretty annoying to have to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's got to be like a specific deck that plays this. Probably Arceus is the place that it fits the best. But then at the same time, you have to wonder okay, currently Arceus decks are playing Lost City. That's pretty good against Lost Box as well. Is
I
that
think it would be good in Guardy. Like you throw this
it
down
could
plus
be good in
Iono,
Guardy as well. But
come back against
you have
them.
3 super solid stadiums to play in Guardy right now. So which one of those like are you giving up an Artisan? Are you giving up
Yeah,
Collapsed or
Artisan. You give
Temple?
Artisan. You definitely
Yeah.
want to keep I'd keep like one collapse. I'd keep the temple if Lugia is relevant, but if and then you just add this as like the third, or if Lugia is not relevant anymore, just cut the temple for it. But yeah, going like I don't know down to 1 or 2 against Lost Box and putting this in play is like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That almost like maybe just auto wins you the matchup. To be honest, like it's possible this extra tool for Guardy could like Lost Box. I think is already struggling in the current meta. Like the Guardy matchup is like pretty close to 50-50, which is already like not great for Lost Box. And the Arceus decks with 4 Ionos are tough. Like I'm personally like not a big fan of Lost Box right now. So this could be kind of this. Hopefully, to be honest, I'd be down with that though. I'd be down if like Lost Box is just bad when this thing drops.
Yeah, maybe leave some room for some other single prize decks to pop up.
Yeah,
Yeah, is
those wings,
Zoro
bro.
box anyone? You know,
Zoro, yeah, exactly. Zoro Box, United Wings. I'm ready for some
well, I
new one
mean,
price decks.
United Wings is a basic attackers as well, but oh, you
Oh,
don't mean
true.
playing this in that. You just mean like the deck
Yeah.
being okay. I
Yeah, but
see.
there's like
Never
a draw
mind.
engine in United Wings, like a little bit more consistent of a draw engine, so you'll be able to find it out to the Pokemon Poke League HQ a
Yeah,
little more
sure.
consistently.
Couple other supported cards here. We've got Ortega. Look at your opponent's hand. Choose one card that you find there and put it on the bottom of your opponent's deck. I read this card initially and was like, okay, this is insane. And then I read the last line. Then your opponent may draw one card. So it is a
Hopefully
very
draw back.
powerful first effect, but you are giving your opponent something else to work with, right?
It can't be. Well, I think it's important to like. There's no way it's the card you took away from them. So
Sure.
you have that going for you, I guess. I don't know. This actually seems really good. Obviously, it's kind of stands out as like a control type card. But I
Yep.
think if you could get this to consistently function and use it consistently in an attacking deck, that would be really annoying. Like imagine if they knock your active Pokemon out and then take your research out of your hand or something. Like that's just really annoying, right? Especially
You
as
know
like
another
maybe
way to
a
send that card to the bottom of your deck?
oh, I don't
Iono.
know. Sure. But if you're going from like 4 random cards to 4 random cards, I'd rather just look at their hand and take a piece of their
Take the
combination.
best piece, yeah.
Yeah, the best piece for what they have on board. Otherwise, you're just giving them 4 random pieces. But you can like play around the card you're taking away from them. So, yeah, I like this card. I think it's really cool. I think it could function really well in like an attacking style deck. I think even in Gardevoir, like this is a one of with like a pal pad. You go for a big one hit KO, plus look at their hand, take something away, like throw
Yeah.
down.
I could see this being more of a play choice in a format where there weren't decks like Lost Box and Gardevoir that can just naturally see so many cards every
Yeah,
single turn. Like if more decks played similarly to like Arceus, where you're just kind of playing with whatever you draw for turn and then whatever you had in your hand last turn more often than not.
and need B
Then I
barrel
could
to not be
see
a
something
guy.
like this being better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely strives in like no draw support type formats. Like we have B barrel as well, right? So like even Arceus decks with B barrel are gonna be.
Yeah. But
It
theoretically,
is
like if
cool.
they have enough cards in their hand, right? Maybe you take away like if you get to see their hand, right? So if they've got clunky things like extra stadiums, extra energies,
Yeah.
this is obviously very situational in that regard. But and then the last one, this is one actually what's up?
I just we had that like little bit of a pause. I was waiting for you to. I was like, go ahead, Chip. But yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make sure you didn't want to say anything else about Ortega, bro.
Oh no, yeah. Ortega's cool. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool if like an attacking style that could abuse it, not just like straight up control decks. I
Yeah.
think that'd be the most interesting way to play it.
And then finally, we've got Gita or Greed. What did you say? What were you calling her when we were in the pre-show?
Vegeta
Gita. I'm pretty sure it's Gita, but I don't know 100%.
could be.
Gita. Let us know what you
I
think
think
it
I saw
is in the
someone else mention that.
comments.
Yeah, I'm sure someone just well, I'm sure someone knows. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll let us know in the comment
Well,
section.
yeah, there is a correct
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
pronunciation.
Jita.
I did find out. I've been saying it wrong. It is not Iono. It is Iono.
Dude, it's just oh no.
Iono. That's how you're supposed to say
Big
it. That's how I
N.
gotta get myself to start saying it. It doesn't
I
really.
know.
I don't know. Some of that. I don't know. It matters, but like it's
Chip,
basically the
even
same
Chip's getting
thing.
tired of it. People in the comment section have been
Iono.
like, "Yeah, why is Chip being so strict with the?" Like, every time you're like, "No, Azul, this is how you pronounce it." But now even you're getting tired of it. You're like, bro, just let me say Vault, bro. Just please.
It just like stings in my ears.
Drapion.
Stop! No. Gita, until the end of the turn you play this card, none of your Pokemon can attack, including Pokemon put into play this turn. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. This is a super unique effect that we have not seen on a card before, I don't think.
Something new, something different. It doesn't feel like cards currently, any of the Pokemon in the current format would abuse this very well, though. I think we're like this is definitely like one of those supportos that'll be used in probably like one deck throughout its existence, and like maybe one tier one deck. Maybe it'll be a little bit better, a rotation or two from now. But yeah, current meta doesn't seem like it's going to be functioning on release, but it is a very cool card. Different, something new, something interesting, something different. I think that's like we've been seeing a lot more of that recently. I think they've been doing a really good job. Just like we need more stuff like this, where it's like, oh, it's cool, it's interesting, it makes me stop and think about what I could combo with. I feel like 151 has a lot of that, so it's kind of a shame we're not getting 151 anytime soon. But it does look like Obsidian Flames will have a decent amount of that as well. So yeah, more cards like this, even if they're not going to be used instantly, immediately, it's not broken off the bat. It seems like it could definitely have its moment eventually. So yeah, another cool card that I'm definitely excited to have in the format.
Yeah, I could see there being something for sure that this is good with. And the stuff that I think this could be good with right now, I mean, really, there's kind of one card that stands out to me, and that's Ting Lu.
Nope.
But even that, like, you have the Koraidon, and you probably want to go first most often anyway, and you can't play supporter on your first turn. Now, if we ever got to a point where the rules changed back to being able to play a supporter on your first turn,
Dude, the people who no, just no.
now that we're several years removed from that, Azul, do you like what the current first turn rules are? Because you're
Well, in
someone who's
comparison,
played,
yeah.
you're someone who's played through multiple eras of first turn rules. You've played through 2010 where you couldn't play a supporter stadium or like you couldn't play any trainer cards turn one, but you could attack.
Yeah.
You also played where there were no restrictions, where you could do everything. You could play supporters, items, and attack. You could only play supporters but not attack. And then what we have currently, where you can't attack and you can't play a supporter. Of all the different turn one rules you've seen over the years yourself as a competitive player, what have been your favorites?
Um, I think it definitely is a little bit dependent on the card pool, of course, right? And they definitely they design the cards around the turn one rules. That's how I feel like something that you always have to remind people. It's like they're not just designing cards and then forget that what you can do on your first and second turn. And like I feel like so many people act like they're just like throwing stuff out there as far as cards go, and they're like, all right, we'll see how it does in the meta. Like they definitely have some idea of what the meta decks could look like, and then they also, design it around what's available to use alongside other cards and turn one rules. I think 2010 is really good though. I think 2010 was really good. Once again, it's based on the card pool though, right?
Right.
But 2010 did feel really, really good for when you went first. And I forget, like sometimes you choose to go second, sometimes you choose to go first. And also the rules back then for best 2 out of 3 was if you lost game 1 going into game 2, you got to see your hand first and then choose whether you want to go first or second based on seeing your hand. And the flip also, if you won the flip, you had to go first as well. That was also one of the rules as well. So it's a little bit different, but 2010 felt pretty good. I think 2010 was pretty solid. But like I don't think there's like a big problem with like current the people who wanted to like bring back turn one supporters literally have no idea. It's like it definitely grass is always greener. No, it's not even a grass is always greener. It's just that was just stupid. Like the people who last year or
Jeez.
whatever were talking about bringing back turn one supporters, like going first, not going second, allowing you to play a turn one supporter going first would have been so bad. Like going first is already a huge advantage in the Pokemon TCG, and it has been for a while. Not a huge advantage. It's an advantage to
Yeah.
go first for sure.
I think that so many people will just look at a small sample size and formulate their opinion based off of a couple games, right? So they have 2 out of
Anecdotal.
5 games at a cup where they lose because they opened up turn 1 a poor hand but had a supporter and they didn't get to play it. Their opponent goes second, Ionos them turn 1 because that's their only supporter. They get the dead hand, and then they lose the game on the next turn. If you have 2 out of your 5
Oh,
games
one of
happen like
the
that, it would be easy to walk away and be like, man, the turn 1 rules right now are terrible. If I could have played my supporter, I would have had a turn to set up and try to do all this
Yeah,
stuff.
I think back then we did have Marnie. So Marnie I think was one of the main driving forces behind that. But still, even then, it would have been going first would have been absurd. So you would have been able to play Marnie. You'd be able to go first and play Marnie. Like that's
Yeah, people
insane.
forget that. They're like,
Every
I
deck would
want
be
to go.
based around.
I want to be able to play supporter so I don't lose to Marnie. So you just get to go first and win with Marnie.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the main driving reasons behind that. I mean, Marnie was just kind of a toxic card, so it's a good thing it's just gone. I don't know, definitely a more balanced version of a disruption card for sure. And I think it's actually just like speaking towards that because we didn't really know how Iono would feel. I think it's like it's doing its job. I think Iono's like a really good, healthy card to
Yeah,
have in the game. Just kind of
still a little early,
uh,
but yeah, I feel pretty solid about it too right now.
yeah,
A few more sets in, maybe our opinion will change. It depends on like
yeah,
other
no
cards that
shot.
eventually come out, right? But yeah, definitely, I agree. It
Once
feels
again, they're
solid right now.
designing like people. Yeah, people. I feel like whenever people are talking about card design, they don't. The designers are designing the game around the game. Like, it's not like they're
Yeah.
like playing Yu-Gi-Oh and being like, okay, how do we make these Pokemon cards work in Yu-Gi-Oh?
Oh, one more card I just realized before we move on that we hadn't talked about yet
Go ahead.
is Rhyme, another new supporter. Draw 3
All
cards
three.
and then switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. So a unique, similar effect, almost like a Gust, but not really. And you also get to draw some cards with it as well. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one, Azul?
I mean, draw 3 supporters. I think just need to become draw 4 supporters. I think we would have such a cool variety of supporters that people played in the format if we had draw 4s. I think draw. We just need Avery if it said draw 4, Rhyme if it said draw 4. I think we're just like a little bit like it just feels like bad for it to say draw 3. I feel like it needs a little bit of a power boost to become more viable. And I think it would really potentially um shake up the meta the format of support of the meta. It would just be like 4 research 4 Iono, which is probably what we're headed towards, to be honest. Going forward, we're probably headed towards once we lose like the Lost Zone engine and all that stuff. We're probably looking at 4 Iono, 4 research in most decks. But I feel like they just need to make these draw 3 supporters just draw 4s, and then all of a sudden they
Yeah.
become a more reasonable inclusion in a lot of decks. But it's like a this is the type of card that you'd play as like a tech to like maybe get around something that has like some weird blocking effect. Like your basics can't hit you during your next turn. You go like or like I don't know, rhyme plus something to like be able to get around some kind of situation like that. But I think these supporters just need to say draw four.
Yeah, maybe if there's a deck that's popular in the format, like, Eternatus Wheezing, push that
Yeah.
Wheezing out of the active spot so you can do something. I could also see this maybe being eventually good if there was ever a deck that already played 4 bosses orders but wanted just a little bit more of an option. Maybe this becomes a 5th boss. I remember there was a format with ADP where every ADP deck was playing 4 boss, and then I was like, how can you get a 5th boss in here? So I played a Sabrina's Suggestions, where you look at the opponent's hand and play a supporter from their hand.
I want to do it again.
It was
How do we
so
get there?
sick whenever I saw so many concede screens when I played Sabrina's Suggestions and ripped the boss from their hand.
That is actually kind
But
of
yeah, if
funny.
there was ever a format where, or there was a deck that was already playing 4 boss that wanted just that little bit extra gust, or like, because it's not really gust, but it's kind of gust, right?
Yeah.
In the right
Pseudo,
scenario.
yeah. Just like
But yeah,
their active is the only thing that you can't mess with, and
yeah,
you want to be able to
yeah.
mess with something, especially in like a deck where you could something like Pidgeotto EX, where you can consistently find this card. Consistently finding this card is also an important part of
Pidgeotto.
Pidgeotto for rhyme for
Or
game, and they've
Pidgeot,
done it.
Pidgeot, bro, Pidgeot.
Pidgeot, whatever.
I have to say
Pidgeotto,
that's something that always messed me up when I was a kid. The fact
me
that it
too. I
went,
always thought Pidgeotto was the
it makes sense, right? Small word, medium word, big word. It should
well,
be,
isn't it? What is it supposed to be based on? What are they?
dude, I don't know.
Oh, I thought there was something behind the Pidge line. But maybe not. But it
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
make sense. I
it
always
would
used to
make
think Pidgeotto was
sense.
the bigger one too. Actually, to be honest, if someone told like before this card came out, if someone told me if I was trying to think of which one the big one was, I probably would have said Pidgeotto to be honest. But now I'm like, now I know because of the release of this card.
Well, you did just say it wrong like 10
Right?
seconds ago.
No, I think I was explaining that I would have said it wrong.
No, you said it wrong. That's what sparked this
All right,
discussion.
confirm in the comment section. What
I
did I
don't,
say?
you lose every time we do this, by the way. Every time you're like, I don't think I said that. Someone tell us in the comments, did I actually say that? You have been wrong every time.
With that said, we want to give a huge thanks to Dragon Shield for being the sponsor of the Uncommon Energy podcast. Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products and accessories on the market, including sleeves, binders, deck boxes, and much, much more. I still got to pick out what sleeves I'm going to be bringing to Worlds. I haven't decided what I'm bringing yet, but I got to figure that out. Got to get the right colors.
Yeah. I sleeved up a deck in the snow dual mats this week. I might
This
try to
weekend.
play at my cup this coming weekend, so not sure if I'll end up going with that color or not. If I decide to play a different deck, I'm just going to use some classic dual matte black, or not dual matte, some classic matte blacks, because that's what I've got a bunch of. I just got a whole box of those, so that's my go-to color. So I'll happily crack into that if necessary, but if not, maybe I'll rock the snow dual mats. We'll see.
All right, yeah. Big thanks to Dragon Shield as always for being a sponsor. You can find them over at their website, dragonshield.com/webshop/US or EU, depending on where you're located. And of course, they're available literally everywhere else, pretty much. Local game shops, Amazon, Walmart, you name it. They're probably there. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the guess that flavor text. Chip, it is your week to pick a card for me to try and guess the Pokemon that the flavor text that you're going to pick belongs to. For anyone who doesn't know how this works, Chip's going to read off a flavor text, and I have to try and guess what Pokemon that flavor text on that card belongs to. And then if I get it right without using any lifelines, I get 4 points. If I use a lifeline, and for each lifeline that I use, there's 3 of them, I get 1 less point if I get the correct card or the correct Pokemon after that. And the lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is in, read an attack name. Chip, I'm ready. Hit me with the flavor text.
Yes, we'll see how ready you are, Azul. It is born asleep, and it dies asleep. All its movements are apparently no more than the result of it tossing and turning in its dreams.
Okay, so the Pokemon that I'm thinking of that is always asleep on the card is Musharma. Um, and then there's the basic. There's Musharma, and then there's
Musharna.
Musharna, and then there's the basic, which is Mana. No, is it Mana?
It's mana.
Mana. Okay, what stage is the card?
It is a basic.
I'm gonna go with Mana.
You're locking it in.
I'm locking in Mana.
Well, you were wrong. Should have used
No.
some more lifelines.
Is it drowsy? No, it's
It's
not drowsy.
not
It's not. It's not
not
drowsy.
drowsy either.
Mana's
Yeah, this
always
was one
asleep
that
on
I
the
thought there
card.
was a chance you could get 4 points on, to be honest. And I think there's some people in the comments who definitely locked up 4 points this week. I'll read the other lifeline, or I'll do the other
I was
lifelines
confident on
just in
that one.
case.
All right, go ahead.
So the attack name is Hypno Roll.
I could work with Mana.
Yeah, yeah. And it is the set it is from, it is a Sun and Moon promo card.
Sun and Moon. That could still be Mana, I feel like, right?
Mana's
No,
from Gen 5, bro. They're not making promos of Mana in Gen 7.
I don't know. Mana's kind of a popular pogue. Everyone's a big Mana fan.
What? What world are you living in?
If you're a Mana fan, let me know in the comment section down below.
All right. Let us know if you got the Pokemon right, because it is Kamala.
Oh,
Kamala.
okay, that is definitely a sleeping Pokemon for sure. I don't think I would have got there. That would have been tough. Yeah, I don't think I would have got to the Kamala.
Yeah, in celebration of Pokemon Sleep coming out, Kamala.
Dude, wait, what is Pokemon Sleep?
I don't know. I haven't downloaded it. I probably
It's like
will
track
though.
your sleep.
It is. It's basically a sleep tracking game, an app that tracks your sleep, but like you also can collect Pokemon. Is what I understand it as.
Play it when you go to sleep.
I think you just like start it when you go to sleep, but I think you have to like sleep with your phone right next to you in your bed so it like knows, or maybe you just I don't know yet. I should.
Bro, Big Pikachu stealing our dreams with that for sure, bro. He's like they're going like another layer deep as far as like advertisement. The people who are out there who are paid to like figure out what people like and why they like it, and that's how ads are based and created and made around. They're going one step further, and they have this Pokemon Sleep app that's literally stealing our dreams to try and figure out the best way to advertise Pokemon to us. For sure, that's what's happening here. Definitely.
Well, it is Kamala. Let us know in the comments if you were able to get it correct. Did the lifelines help you, or were you able to lock it in for 4 points? Are you playing Pokemon Sleep as well? Let us know.
Is it out?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure it like came out this week, like this past week.
Oh, I saw people talking about it. I wasn't sure it was out. It took forever though, right?
The beta, yeah, dude, it got announced in like 2019 or something like that, I think.
I mean, COVID slowed everything down, so
but a game that you can just play, like.
Yeah, but it was not on the top of their priority list when COVID hit. They were probably like, all right, we can let Pokemon Sleep go to the back burner for right now. We can
let Pokemon Sleep take a nap for a little while.
Whoa! All right, Chip. All right. And moving forward, we're back with some best of. Should we talk about League Cups in general first, or we could?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of maybe where part of this comes from. The community is back on the best of 1 versus best of 3 debate. I feel like we've talked about it like 2 or 3 times on the podcast, but
we go again.
We'll start off by talking about some League Cups. So yeah, League Cups are kind of back into the full swing of things. The season is underway, even though Worlds has not happened. Even though we don't know how many points you need to get to 2024 Worlds, even though we don't know where 2024 Worlds is, all these things are question marks. People are still playing for their points, and people are showing up big time for cups, for challenges. I've seen people who have driven like hours for cups, and even like for a challenge where you only get 15 points, there's 50 people at the tournament. People are driving like 7 hours to these things. And then I've also seen people like flying for double cup weekends. It's getting crazy out there, Azul. People are ready for the points, and we don't even know what they're playing for yet. How many points do you need? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a pretty good. I think we have like a pretty good idea. It seems like it's gonna be pretty similar to best fish limit of 8 for cups and challenges, probably throughout the whole year. And then, if anyone doesn't know what best finish limit is, they can take your top X finishes from a type of tournament, and that'll be applied towards your Worlds Invite. So we're probably looking at best of 8 total finishes for cups and challenges. Regionals probably going to be 6 to 8 BFL for that. And it's probably going to be around 500 points again for the Worlds Invite, which I think is fine. I think it's been a solid number that we've been kind of going to pretty consistently in the last couple seasons. Of course, we had that kind of break between COVID where we didn't have miss out on Worlds or 2. How many Worlds actually did we miss out on? There was 2 Worlds, right?
22, yeah, there was no 2020 Worlds and no 2021 Worlds.
Yeah. So what was I say about the cups? Oh yeah, but I guess like the big thing, and we see this come up. I feel like it's been coming out. I feel like every time Pokemon gets like a new surge of popularity, there is a lot of game stores that are trying to take advantage of that, right? Because game stores, it helps them to stay in business, and it's good business to be running tournaments for different card games, right? So
Mhm.
people want to be able to have league cups and league challenges and get the Pokemon players into their stores. And there are some. The most we had one most recently pop up here where it was like someone was where they were charging $50 entry
I
fee.
saw that.
I think that's the most I've ever seen for a league cup. Now, one thing I talked about on my stream the other day to quickly just kind of throw that out there is like people really got to start putting speaking with their wallet, and if the event is really ran poorly, bad conditions in the store, or if the entry fee is just or is like really expensive, unless it's like your only league cup near you. Because there are some people who have like one store within like 10, within like like that one's like an hour away, and the next store is like 3 hours away. Unless it's like that kind of situation, and even if it is that kind of situation, speak with your wallet. Stop paying $50 for. I could not imagine paying $50 entry fee unless the pricing was really high, of course, which
Yeah.
we don't know about the pricing yet. We don't know what the
Yep.
pricing was for that one specifically. But yeah, speak with your wallet. Stop showing up to these poorly ran or heavily inflated registration fee league cups and league challenges. I think you gotta take that
Yeah.
stance to the Pokemon community. But people are fiending for the CP, so it feels like it might
Yeah.
not be headed that route.
Yeah, I think in theory, right, if you're just looking at it from like a competitive value standpoint, $50 for a league cup would be perfectly acceptable if there is adequate prizing paid out. So like, for $50, at least like half a booster box worth of packs going into the prize pool for each entrant, something like that, or store credit
Yeah, something like
equivalent,
that.
something like that. Um,
A 1K or a 5K would be like,
but where it falls short to me as well is the fact of league cups are kind of meant to be this in between bridge between the hyper competitive players and then also your local players, right? You as a card shop should want to give your local player base or people who live in your area that play Pokemon that maybe don't normally come to your card store but would for a bit of a tournament. You want to give them a reasonable way to try to compete in a Pokemon event. And when you put that high of a price tag on your tournament, you're taking a good bit of that away and you're going to turn a good bit of those players away from competing in your tournament. Now, if you're just a solely, short-sighted, business-focused idea, if you can sell out your store space for $50 a person, that and maybe it's a smaller store or something like that, right? Maybe they have a cap of 25 or 30 people, something like that. And they think, okay, we're in a good area. We can sell out at $50. Let's do it. But you're cutting short maybe the people who would like your main audience, right? Because the competitive players might be willing to drive from far away to make that happen still, but the people at your locals who come to your league every single week, they probably don't want to pay more than $20 to play in one of these things. And even $20 is like, it's a lot for something to do on the weekend, right? A hobby that's already, can be expensive buying a lot of cards and things like that.
yeah, definitely. And I don't know. There has to be like at some point where Pokemon would like send them all right, you gotta like they couldn't charge like theoretically they couldn't charge like 100. I mean, there has to be a point where like if enough support tickets are submitted about a certain issue with a store. And I think some things that people bring up as issues are really non-issues, and it's just kind of like if you don't like that about the store or the location, then you probably just shouldn't go. But I think like the one thing that you could look at and be like, okay, at some point this maybe gets a little bit predatory would be entry fee, right? Like there was also like there was one of the big one that blew up over on Twitter over the weekend was there was a League Cup in California where apparently there's no AC in the store. It's been really hot here in California, and they didn't have enough tables, so people were playing outside on their cars, which is kind of funny. So in that situation, it feels like they probably should have limited entry so people weren't playing outside on their cars. Just make sure this do a pre-reg online. People can get in ahead of time. You know how many people you have. You know when people are going to be turned away. So you tell them, don't even show up because we're full up. Um, and I mean, some stores just don't have AC. I remember playing back in the day in some stores in Massachusetts that didn't have AC. So if you don't like that, and it's not if that's too miserable for you, then I would say don't go. I think the one thing you could always look at that would be registration fee, right? Like if someone is charging $100 reg for a League Cup, I haven't seen that yet, of course, but at some point, I feel like Pokemon should step in and be like, okay, you can't do that, right? I assume they would step in at some point at a certain level of entry fee charge.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, right, Pokemon could, and you have to ask, should they set parameters for what a cup or a challenge should
Maybe
look
do that's what I
like.
was gonna say. Do they? Do you know? Like,
I
is
don't
there
think
guidelines out
that
there?
they do, but I think that there's probably a reason for that, right? Each shop is different, you know?
And
A
location based as
store a
well,
store
right?
that's located in the middle of Chicago versus a store that's located in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, like the demographic and the amount of players that these stores are gonna get is vastly different.
So the
So
expense to run the store as well, right? Like
yeah, exactly. It's more expensive in Chicago. You're going to have more people as well to support, like maybe having a higher prize pool. So they have a higher entry fee versus, somewhere in the country or something like that. You just, want to have something for the people who live nearby to be able to participate in and play and have a chance to earn some points. So, I mean, I think like if Pokemon wanted to, in theory, and they've done this before, right? With city championships, where local tournament organizers ran this level of tournament rather than the stores themselves.
yeah.
And then Pokemon, I believe, back in the day for cities, right? They provided the prizing for those things because they were run by
Um,
the city championship,
I
by the
think
tournament organizer for that area. I don't remember a
I don't
1000%
think
because that's like
so.
right when I started playing.
Because entry fees, well, there was no entry. Wait, there was no entry fees back then either.
No, no, there were entry fees for cities for sure.
No, there wasn't.
And maybe not at some, maybe in the past, like early
Oh,
days of
was
cities,
there
maybe not.
eventually?
But when I started playing, I definitely remember there
You
being.
played in cities?
Yeah, my first year playing was the last year of cities.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, way back in the day, there was no entry fee for anything for anyone who's curious. Like, there was no entry fee for regionals, no entry fee for. Wait, was there entry? No, there wasn't. I think the first regional I went to, there was no entry fee.
No, back in the day regionals, I've heard this before,
Yeah,
did
no
not
entry
have an
fee at
entry fee.
regionals or cities or wait, maybe cities and battle roads did have an entry fee. Maybe not. I don't remember. I remember having to get maybe I just had to get like lunch money from my parents, like for the I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think there was. Like back when I started playing 2010, no entry fee for anything. You just showed up, you played, you had a good time. Did need to bring some lunch money with it or lunch, one or the other, because it's good to eat. Um, yeah, so I guess maybe it did start with cities. I didn't remember. I thought it started with League Cups where they started charging entry fee. But I guess I'm wrong on that probably. Um, what was I gonna say? Man, I'm kind of lost on this one. Oh yeah, yeah. But I think that's like, yeah, I think you gotta. I mean, I guess that'd be for anyone out there who knows. Is there a point where Pokemon would step up? Have we ever seen that before? If anyone actually who's listening, let us know in the comment section. Like,
Runs
has
a
anyone?
league or something like
Yeah, do you
that.
know about a league or a store where Pokemon took away their ability to run tournaments for whatever reason,
Oh, I mean,
whatever reason
that's
it might
definitely
be?
happened.
Yeah, but like wondering what the reason is then. Like, what is the
I
reason
don't
that
know
that
if it's
happened?
happened because of someone charging too much for a cup.
They
There
definitely
was
would
a
at some
store in
point,
North
right?
Carolina, I remember a few years ago, that they charged like a $50 entry fee to their cup, but uh, everyone who registered got an Arcanine break box. So they used their entry fee as a way to move old
Ooh.
products that they couldn't sell.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Because I feel like that is because sometimes I hear about like a little bit higher entry fees, but it's like, oh, you get 2 packs. So it's like, okay, the entry fee is like $10 more expensive than the average one.
I mean, I
But
think if you're paying $50 and then more is going into the general prize pool, that's fine. But I think if you're tying, like in the example I just gave, I think if you're tying old dead stock to the entry fee, that's a little like suspect, in my opinion.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of the
But
idea of that.
like I said earlier, I think like in general, these should be less than $20 events because it's supposed to be something
20.
between casual and competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally that's a good number to shoot for is the $20. And but I think if you do go higher, 30, 40, if you're tying that to it being like a 1K or like a 5K type tournament, somewhere in that range of a decent amount of prize payout or like a case tournament or something, I think that's fine as well. And trying to make a little bit bigger of an event out of it. I think it's okay as well. But yeah, $50 for the one that we saw that was $50. That seems like a that seems like a lot. I don't
That's
know
something
about that.
else.
Yeah, but I think players need to like unless it is like we didn't see I haven't seen I thought I would assume that someone would have like defended the tournament if they knew the prize pool for the tournament, but I haven't seen anyone mention anything about the price of what the prize pool is for that tournament on Twitter, which is kind of like the defense of it is like we don't know what the prize pool is for this tournament, so them charging $50 could be reasonable. But I think the players need to definitely start speaking with their time and their wallet and just like stop showing up to some of these tournaments that have these egregious entry fees. Or if the tournaments are really run that poorly, then also just like don't go. And if no one goes to their tournaments, they can't run tournaments. So they either have to improve or they just don't run tournaments. And I think they want to run the tournaments. So hopefully that would lead to them improving the tournaments, right?
And this could also be one of the situations of a new store running a tournament and not really, you know, a store that's used to having just their local area play in their Magic the Gathering tournaments, right? And they charge more and they have a good prize payout, and they're just not used to and probably not expecting dozens of people to drive hours away to go play in this thing. That also
Yeah.
is a possibility. I don't know this league or this store if it's something that's been around for a long time or not, but that is something that could be a thing. But this discussion kind of also led, I don't know if these were necessarily related, but more just kind of two things that the community was talking about this week, and that's the League Cups we mentioned, and then also the good old best of one versus best of three debate. This was a pretty prominent discussion, I think, after NAIC specifically. And I think in large part due to the game that was on stream round one, Tord Reklev versus Pedro Pertusi, where Tord wins game one, a pretty long game one. I think Pedro maybe could have conceded a little bit earlier, to be honest, if I'm remembering
Yeah.
back to that game correctly. I know you Bavad reviewed it, right? Yeah. But regardless, they go to game two, and it's pretty obvious early on that Tord is not playing to win game one or game two.
Game
Sorry,
two.
he's playing
Yeah.
to not lose game two, right? So
Yeah.
he's just playing his game, setting up his board, doing things like that. He's not really worried about attacking or anything like that. He's just worried about doing things that take time off the clock that lead to him winning the match 1-0, which is eventually what happens. So that's been kind of one of the big calluses and big points of this
Catalysts. You call
discussion the last couple weeks. Huh?
you said one of the big calluses.
Yeah. Like a cat like that's a thing.
Oh, a catalyst.
Cattle. Oh, yeah. Cat. Yeah, my bad. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, big
I'll give you
catalyst.
that one. um yeah, we even saw, prominent creators like Celio putting out a poll over on Twitter. Round structures for major Pokemon TCG events should be best of 3 50 minutes with ties, best of 3 50 minutes no ties, best of 1 30 minutes with ties, best of 1 30 minutes with no ties. And the most popular choice, the one that I voted for, and I believe the one you voted for as well, Azul, best
Any
of
sane person
3
voted for.
50 minutes with ties, which is our current structure at the moment.
Yeah.
49% in that camp, 29% in best of 3 50 no ties, and then, around 10% in the other two vote categories.
Yeah. The only way I think best of one would work, and of course, so one of the things that would have to happen with best of one is we currently play 9 rounds, best 2 out of 3, 50 minutes plus 3 with ties. We went to
At
best
the
of
regional
one
level.
at regional level. If we went to best of one, we'd be playing probably what 13, 14 rounds day one. That's day one rounds, right? We'd be playing like 13, 14 rounds day one, 7, 8 rounds day two. Best of one, 30 minutes. I would still say we should still have ties. I think ties are fine in the game. I think ties should exist. So with ties, ideally for me. But I think for best of one to work and be as consistently functional in Pokemon as best 2 out of 3 is currently, I think one thing that could get it there and maybe even surpass best 2 out of 3 if we have that many rounds would be some kind of optional mulligan rule. Where if you open a hand and you have an Arceus, but the rest of the hand is like 6 energy cards, you can choose to be like, I'm gonna take a mulligan here. Show your opponent, you still have a basic, but now you get to shuffle that back into the deck, get 7 new cards. They still get a card, and then you play from there. But if you mulligan again, like if that hand had no basics, your opponent would get another card draw. But you get like an optional mulligan, no matter what your hand looks like,
Or what if
as
it
long as
was
it has
like
a
an
basic, you
optional
send it back.
mulligan, but you had to keep the second hand, so you just get yourself like one
Well,
chance
yeah,
at a
yeah, yeah.
reset,
That's what I'm
right?
saying. Just one optional mulligan, but there's no
Yeah.
basic. But it still has to have a basic. The
Yeah.
follow
Sure.
up
Sure.
hand still
Sure.
has to have basic. Yeah.
I see.
Or another one that's come out before, and I think Tord is the one who like started this idea was draw 13 cards, and then you'll most likely have a basic then, and then you pick 6 of the cards to be your prize cards, which would kind of help solve the checking prize cards thing that has come up as a discussion recently. So you know your prize cards, whether you get to like place them out how you want to, or your opponent then shuffle, or you shuffle your prize cards afterwards, and your opponent cuts, and then you lay them out, or not. Who knows how that would function? But I think if you do best of one, you would need like one of those two things, or a different way to kind of help the consistency of best of one. That's the only way I think best of one is ever close to being as good as best 2 out of 3, even with the current a rate of ties that seem to be happening in major tournaments, which I don't even think is that bad, to be honest. I think people are kind of just looking for something to complain about with that. But otherwise, I think like if we did switch to best of one and it was just best of one 30 minutes with no like optional kind of type mulligan rule, I think people would be very miserable very fast. Even some of the people who are currently advocating for best of one, they think that I think this is definitely a grass is always greener on the other side type scenario. Was there anything else that you would change up though, like best of one? Do you have any other ideas like how to make best of one better, or would you be fine with like?
No, I think best of one with an optional mulligan seems good. I don't love the idea of playing extra rounds though.
What do you mean we'd have to? There's no way.
Well, I feel like you would have to, but like I just don't like it adds more time. Like obviously you're losing time from like it'll balance out right
It'll
between
probably be about the
more
same.
rounds versus 50 minutes rounds versus
Some
30-minute rounds. So it'll
I,
balance out. But I'm just thinking of like it just there's more between rounds, there's more dead
yeah,
time in the tournament, right?
they have to all be
So
accounted
it
for, and
does
then the
make the day feel longer, even if it isn't actually longer. I
yeah,
think in theory it would make the day feel longer. And then
yeah,
also I think it would be more mentally taxing than the game already is because you're going between more games, right? Even if you're in theory with best of three, if you're going to game three most rounds, like you're theoretically playing more games, but you're having to think through less situations almost, I feel like, because you're playing 9 people 2 times, 2 to 3 times. Whereas if you're
yeah.
playing 14, 15 people one time, you're having to adjust more on the fly. I almost feel like it would be more of a mental strain on the day.
Yeah, I could see it. I
Um
think that the time would yeah, some people were some comments I've seen about some people saying about this is that like if we switch to best of one 13, 14 rounds, the tournaments would go faster, which is not true because of the amount of downtime in between rounds. There's
yeah.
more in between rounds time. So it'd probably be about the same.
And also more
Um,
opportunity for there to be a long judge call after a round. There's almost always a long judge call after every
yeah,
single round anyway, right? With so many games happening, but you just create more opportunities for that to happen at a higher, you know, time extension rate than already exists,
yeah.
which is never fun for, any level of the tournament, for the staff, for the production, right? Or for the other players who are having to sit and wait.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned, a lot of this discussion was due to kind of that round one stream game, I feel like, from an AIC. And Tor did put out a statement about this.
I mean, it
Hang
wasn't
on.
so much about the round, but like a solution to
Yeah, he
uh
didn't talk about his round really, but yeah, he
yeah.
said, but it was like he's kind of saying this because he's the center of a lot of this discussion,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, probably.
So Tord tweeted, I'll just read his statement real quick. Seen a lot of controversy and differing opinions around the 50-minute best of three time structure lately. A normal game of Pokemon takes about 25 minutes, and even longer for some of the top decks. Taking legal actions in a game you are losing is not cheating, as per the rulebook, but it certainly feels like it sometimes. Wholeheartedly, I think the tournament experience would be more fun for everyone if we played 2 games instead of 3, with each game awarding 1 point. Right now, every match will always have one player wanting a game to not conclude, either game 2 being up a game or game 3 being in a bad position. With 2 games, both players will always have an incentive to finish every game, even if you are losing, since it will boost your opponent's win percentage. This also eliminates the unfair advantage of the opening coin flip. In theory, right? In this system, one
Yeah.
player goes first once, one player goes first the other game. Interested in opinions on the structure and where you personally draw the line for fair play.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I think we talked about this before, but I think, and I agree that best of, or yeah, I guess it would be best of two, right? Or you just play 2 games instead of best out of three. It would just be best of two, and then like if you each win a game, it's just a tie, or you both get 1 point. It's not even really a tie, right? It's just for each game won,
Yeah.
you get a point. And I do think this would be a good system in terms of just people trying to maximize playing games. I think that is true, but I think it'd be a very unsatisfying system as well, especially like for stream matches. It's like, and
Dude.
they go 1-1, and that's it,
Yeah.
and
I
that's the
think
round.
if you're looking at this from a pure top level
Max,
player perspective, min max type of ideology where you just want games and you want things to feel the most fair, I could maybe understand this. But like, try explaining to someone at their first ever Pokemon tournament, oh, yeah, half of your matches are not going to have a winner. You know,
Yeah.
like it's just so counterintuitive to what every other competitive game ever teaches you, right? That you want there to be a winner and not let alone mention for the stream, like you said.
Yeah.
It's already annoying enough as a viewer to watch a game end in a tie. Imagine if every single match ends in a tie,
Because there would be
or
a lot
half the
more of
matches,
the
right?
yeah, there would be a lot more one-on-ones, right? I don't think that, and even I saw Chris Szymanski tweet out on Twitter, it's like there's not that many there's not as many games going to time as people seem to think. I think
Oh,
basically that's what Chris
definitely
tweeted.
not.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is kind of the is that like what it is for Pokemon? The flavor of the it's like flavor of the month thing to complain about, kind of thing. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Best of 2. It's just super unsatisfying, bad viewer experience for the stream. Of course, you'd get to Best of 3 into Top Cut eventually. But yeah, it's just super unsatisfying. Yeah, the proportion of 1-0 matches is very, very small. I guess let's just talk about 1-0s. It's not talking about ties in like a um in a best 2 out of 3 scenario where it goes, game
Yeah.
3 doesn't finish. But it doesn't really feel like it happens that often, to be honest. Like especially like and so I feel like the game shouldn't be enjoyable only if you're trying to maximize competitive play. Something I've been really trying to do recently personally is trying to finish my sets, to finish 3 games of my sets, to have enough time to play 3 games. The more Pokemon games of Pokemon you play, the higher chance the better has of winning more, right? So that's something I've been trying to do is play as much Pokemon as possible. And I've had very few ties. Like the last, well, I actually had a decent amount of ties at NAIC, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. But what majority of them were my fault. I could have played better, conceded faster, like, and I recognize that, right? I don't think it's a problem with the format. I could have done more, but should everyone have to try and play at the caliber of play that I'm trying to play at to enjoy the tournament? I don't think so, right? So I think there is definitely a point to that as well. Like, not everyone should be trying to play at the caliber I'm trying to play at to be able to enjoy a Pokemon TCG tournament. But if it is just kind of a state or a product of the current format, Lost Box, Guardy, like, I don't think we should change the rules just because one format feels a little bit more tie heavy as well. I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
So ultimately, I mean, one other discussion point that I think does come up every time this comes, this like the issue of ties in the game comes about is the talking point of chess clocks. So at chess tournaments, each person has a set amount of time to play the game, and when you're done with your actions, you tap the button, boom, go on to the next one.
your opponent's clock starts.
Your opponent's clock
Mhm.
starts. So in theory, if you have two clocks with 25 minutes each on them, 50 minutes, each person has the same amount of time, but it's a little different between Pokemon and chess because in chess, everyone's on the same playing field, right? They have the same pieces, they do the same things. In Pokemon, though, a deck like Arceus that searches the deck at the end of the turn once every single turn, and then a deck like Mew that goes in and out of the deck a dozen times a turn, right? There's
Yeah.
shuffling time, like all these things add up to one player ultimately taking up more of the time. And it's not because of them doing gameplay actions. It's just because like that's how their deck is built and how it works. And also another point, this would be really bad for control strategies just in general
Yep.
as well, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. And in the rule book, it does say that roughly each player should get an equal amount of time, but I don't think that should exist in the rule book. I think that's a bad thing to have in the rule book because it's a game where, like you said, yeah, in chess everyone's playing with the exact same pieces. In Pokemon, you could be theoretically playing with 60 different pieces from your opponent, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not equal, and it shouldn't be equal. If someone takes 40 minutes in a game and someone takes 10, ideally the matches still gets resolved, but if that's the outcome based on the matchup in the decks, that's fine. That's fine if someone only gets 10 minutes of playtime and someone gets 40 minutes of playtime, if as long as the match resolves, right? If all 3 games get played in the best 2 out of 3, who cares who took more time? That shouldn't matter in a trading card game. So I think that should personally be removed from the rule book because I think it's something people will bring up as like a reasoning for the time having should be even on each side, which then leads to the kind of the chess clock discussion, which once again doesn't make any sense in a card game because we're not playing with the same exact pieces. Some pieces take longer than others, and that's fine. If you don't like it, go play chess. Like, you can just go play chess. And their online client is easier. Is better. Chess.com, no bugs, no glitches, an actual ranked ELO rating system. It's everything you could ever
Dude, I
imagine. Go for it.
Azul finding a way to sneak in a PTCG live rant.
It's there
Check that one
for
off the
you.
weekly bingo card, right?
If you want to play chess, go play chess. Pokemon is not chess. It doesn't mean we couldn't take some ideas or theories from it, but like, yeah, chess clocks is terrible idea. Um, in Pokemon. The last thing I would say though is like my personal ideal form. I think the current format of best out of 350 minutes plus 3 with ties isn't. I think it's better than pretty much everything that people have suggested. I think you can expand on best out of 3 and potentially alter this one. And what I would like to see personally would be best out of 3, 60 minutes ties, but no plus 3. And I think we would play more Pokemon. I think that 10 minutes from 50 to 60, you basically already do that with plus 3. The rate that players slow down when it enters plus 3 turns is a lot, right? And even on top of that, in general, there's a judge call that extended the round anyways by like 5 or 10 minutes maybe. So most players are still finishing that. I think if you went to 60 minutes instead of plus 3, people would play more turns of Pokemon and the tournaments would finish in the exact same amount of time. I think that the 10 minutes is basically being used up in plus 3 to begin with.
Yeah, I almost so Andrew Mahone tweeted something about this, him favoring best of 1 versus best of 3.
Till his
S
Manaphy gets donked.
yeah, he says he doesn't mind towards solution, but he's saying 30 minutes best of 1, no ties, like what Japan has, which is where the cards are designed,
Dude, it's so
is
miserable to watch
optimal.
Japan streams. It's not. It's like
Huh?
I was even ranted about it when I watched not the Japan Championships, but the one before that. So many people just like opened a dead hand and the game was over or got donked. It was miserable to watch. It was honestly
Yeah.
miserable to watch.
So, I
I
think
hope Mahomes
if
Manaphy gets donked in his next best of one tournament.
I think that a best of 1 structure, similar to what Japan has, with the addition of the optional mulligan, like we talked about. I think, in my mind, that's the best structure to go for.
That's really cool.
I
I think
think
it
the
would be
game
cool.
feels pretty balanced, right? Maybe as balanced as it's felt in a long time with the current turn 1 rules and going first versus going second,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think
Going
going
second
first
does not
is
feel
still
terrible.
slightly better, but most decks can win going first or going second, no matter what they're playing against, right?
Yeah.
Which that's something that I don't think we're at, like, as long as I've been playing, it almost feels like an all-time low of going first being the most advantaged position, just in
It's
general.
definitely an advantage, but it doesn't feel overwhelmingly like,
Yes,
oh,
yes,
that's it. I'm done. I'm cooked. Especially when you're not playing a mirror match. When you play a mirror match, it still feels pretty good to go first.
of
But
course.
non-mirror matches, like the extra power of the setup that you get from playing a draw supporter, ideally on your first turn, like you're like an Arceus deck up against a Guardy deck. The Arceus deck goes first because the turn attachment. But as the Guardy deck, you're almost if you go second and have an Iono, you're like guaranteed 4 rolls, right? So like you have some power to work with on your follow-up turn, for sure.
So, I feel like best of 1 with the optional mulligan to eliminate what you mentioned as, like, kind of the big issue, from watching the Japanese streams, or at least decrease the chances of it happening. There will be games, obviously, if an optional mulligan exists, where you take your optional mulligan and your next hand is just as bad. That's going to happen, right? But variance is
Yeah.
always going to exist in card games. Unfortunately, it's just going to be part of it. If we wanted to play a perfect, 100% skill based game, we should just go play chess, right?
Go play chess. Man, if you can't get
um,
donked in chess.
so And then I don't hate the idea of, like, just 9 rounds. Even, like, why do we have to add more rounds if it's best of 1? Like, in theory, to reduce the variance, right? But if we're already adding the
Yeah.
optional mulligan rule, we can still
No,
just do 9 rounds. We can keep our kind of similar structure plus 6 rounds day 2, and then the tournament goes by faster, and then you have more time to do other things at the tournament, right? We always talk about at these Pokemon events
if you want to go
how
3 drop and go play side events, you got it, bro. But
yeah, no, listen. Or, how often have you been to one of these cities for a Pokemon tournament and done nothing besides go to the hotel in the convention center, right?
yeah, but I don't. But it's not going to create that much more time. I think you still need the extra rounds to make it on par with best two out of three. I think for the current system, if you went to best one, I think you would need the 12, 13 rounds, whatever it might become, to be on par. Otherwise, I think the variants are still going to be a lot higher in the overall tournament results. I think it was extra couple rounds will make a big difference for sure.
Best of one, optional mulligan, 9 rounds, no ties. I think I would be on board with that.
14 rounds, no ties. All right, I agree with Chip. I think yeah, I would be down to try that out. Like I think that would be reasonable to try out, but the no optional mulligan I think would have way too much variance in tournament. And I think we'd see it in the result as well pretty quickly. Like we just see the top players that have consistently been doing well for a long time just not doing as well just because there's more variance in the game, which like if they end up going that route, I mean, more variance in the game isn't the end of the world. I mean, it's still just Pokemon at the end of the day, but I would like to be a little bit. I'd like to minimize the variance as much as we can that it within reason, and I think the current system does that pretty well in comparison to some past systems. Um, but
Well,
send us out,
Azul.
Chip.
I think that is it. So yeah, we're gonna get on out of here and get into our bonus episode over on the Patreon. Thanks, of course, to everyone for listening. As always, your support means a ton to us. If you do enjoy, please be sure to leave us a like, leave us a rating, a comment. All those things go a long way to help more people find the podcast and help us keep doing what we're doing. And if you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on Twitter. Myself, you can follow at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. You can also follow the Uncommon Energy podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Appreciate the support as always. Good luck in your cups and challenges if you're going to name this weekend. If the entry fee is too high, just don't go. It's like just like just be like, I'm not gonna go to this. And if enough people don't go, hopefully they'll switch it up if it really is that egregious. Or if they're like, if they run the tournaments that poorly, just put your foot down. Speak with your wallet and your time, and don't go play at those tournaments. But yeah, Pokemon players are CP or championship point fiends. So I mean, they're always showing up, no matter the entry fee price, no matter the no matter how the tournaments run. So they're always making their way there. But yeah, catch you all next Tuesday, 7 a.m. Eastern.